There are hundreds of coding languages that you can learn, so if you're a beginner, how are you supposed to know which one to start with? In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the most popular beginner-friendly coding languages, as well as strategies you can use to choose which one to focus on. Hi, my name's Sarah. I'm a software developer. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm filming from the lands of the Paramank people, where sovereignty was never ceded. I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I work with Code Like a Girl to provide education and opportunities to help us all become equal creators in building the future. When you're just starting out, there are a few different generic and specific qualities in languages to look out for. Firstly, generic qualities. You want to choose something that's beginner-friendly, that's designed for ease of use, and many languages are designed with these principles in mind. Secondly, it's a good idea to choose something that's popular, so that means it'll have a large community behind it, a lot of people producing tutorials and talking about it on forums. And thirdly, it's a good idea to choose something that has been around for a long time and is well established. I know it can be tempting to choose a language that's kind of like the latest trend, but if you choose something that's established, you know that the language itself will be stable, and if you go looking for information about it, it's more likely that that information will be correct and up to date. Each coding language also has specific qualities that make them better suited to different kinds of things. So if you've got a particular project in mind, or you're interested in following a certain career or area of interest, you might want to choose the language that you learn based on that. Some languages are better for data analytics, some are really well suited to web development, some are more about style, some are more about functionality, as you'll see. So here are my top recommendations for beginner-friendly coding languages. So number one is Python. Python is a general-purpose programming language, meaning that it's used for a wide variety of applications, everything from software development to video games, machine learning, the Internet of Things, everything in between. Python was released in 1991. It's been popular for a long time, and its popularity is still growing. There's a huge community of developers behind it, and many tech companies, software startups, and big tech use Python as part of their software stack. Python's developers have a goal to make it fun to use, and the language itself was named after the British comedy group Monty Python. It's a really good language for beginners because it's easy to learn, it's clear to read, and it's really simple to write in. You might choose Python if you are a very analytical person who likes problem solving. Python's great for data analytics and machine learning, and it's really important for anybody who might be considering a career in data science. Number two, HTML and CSS. I know this is two languages, but together they form the foundations of web design and web development. It's great to learn them together in parallel to see how they interact to create the structure and style of a web page. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It was invented in the late 80s and early 90s by Sir Tim Berners-Lee as a way to link documents together on a network. HTML is now the standard language of the web, and it's used to compose text and images and videos and other media into a document or a web page that can be accessed via a browser. And HTML becomes really powerful when you pair it with other technologies like CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and it's a style sheet language that's used to describe the look and feel of a document or web page that's been written in HTML. CSS is used to separate the presentation and the structural elements of a web page, and with CSS you can code layouts, colors, fonts, and all sorts of visual elements. You can use it to create mobile layouts, you can use it to create animations, and it's also used to make web pages more accessible so that more people can enjoy them. These two languages are at the very foundations of web development. So if you're interested in a career in this area, it's a good idea to learn these no matter what language or framework you'll be using. These are great languages for people who want to bring together different skill sets of design and logic, of art and geometry, and they're really fun to learn as well as really easy to get started with and are used literally all over the web. So if you want to build websites or web applications, start with HTML and CSS. Number 3 is JavaScript. Alongside HTML and CSS, JavaScript is one of the 3 core technologies of the World Wide Web. It's an object-oriented programming language, and it's usually used to create interactive effects inside web browsers. It's often confused with Java, and even though the names sound similar, Java and JavaScript are quite different. JavaScript, or JS, has been around since the mid-1990s, and today it's used across the front and back ends of hugely popular web applications, things that you and I probably use every single day for things like video streaming, music streaming, online search, and online shopping. JS runs on any device that has a browser, and you can use it to build basically anything you can think of and share it anywhere. It's used to build desktop applications, web applications, server backends, mobile apps. It's even moving into the world of Internet of Things and video game development. Now, you might have heard of frameworks and libraries like React.js, Node.js, Angular, even jQuery. And these are really popular right now, but it's a really good idea to take a step back and learn the core concepts of vanilla JavaScript before you venture into any frameworks. JavaScript is one of the most popular coding languages amongst developers, and lots of companies are hiring for it, from startups through to big tech. So it's a great path to follow for anyone who's interested in software development in general. Number 4 is Ruby. Ruby is a high-level general-purpose programming language. It was developed in the mid-1990s in Japan by a developer who's affectionately known as Mats. Mats has said that one of the reasons he chose that name is because of the birthstone of one of his colleagues. He's also said that the primary purpose of Ruby is for every programmer in the world to be productive, to enjoy programming, and to be happy. There's a saying in the Ruby community that Mats is nice and so we are nice. Ruby is a great language for beginners to learn because it looks and reads a lot like English. So it's really not a very scary language to start with. The code is quite easy to understand. Ruby is the basis for the Ruby on Rails web application framework. This was really popular for web development in the mid-2000s to build web applications. And it's a full stack framework, meaning it covers both the front and back end. So a single developer could build a full application without having to use multiple technologies. It's also really useful for prototyping. And for that reason, it's really loved by startups and hobbyists because you can build a full application from scratch using relatively few lines of code. And like with JavaScript frameworks, it's a really good idea to master the basics of Ruby before you move on to Rails. While it's maybe not as popular as it once used to be, a lot of startups are still hiring for Rails developers. So it's good to learn Ruby and Ruby on Rails if you're interested in working in the startup sector. It's also a good path to follow if you have your own personal projects, personal web applications that you want to build, and if you're interested in web development in general. Number 5 is SQL. Sometimes referred to as SQL, SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and this is used for accessing and modifying records or data that's held in a database. It was invented by IBM in the 1970s as a way for IBM to query their own databases. Now it's used by almost every tech company in the world, and in fact, any organization that deals with large amounts of information is probably using SQL somewhere in the organization. If you're used to using spreadsheets to manage data, you might find SQL to be really useful because it can handle data pools of really any size, whether you're talking about hundreds of records or thousands or millions of records. It's quite a good language for beginners to learn because the concepts are really simple, But it is also really quite powerful and it's flexible enough to create really complex queries. A lot of web applications will be connected to an SQL database, so it's a really good one to learn if you're interested in web development. And it's a really important language to learn if you're interested in data science or machine learning or really anything that involves working with large amounts of data or information. Those are 6 great languages to learn if you're just starting out with coding and also if you're looking to add to your skill set. Python, HTML and CSS, JavaScript, Ruby and SQL are great for beginners because they're easy to learn, they're fun to learn, they have huge communities behind them, and they've been around for a long time. So there's a lot of learning material available to help you along your way. Of course, the world of coding isn't just limited to these 6 languages, and there might be another one that suits you better, that suits your needs better. So do your research. And if you're really interested in the world of coding and software development, you might also want to think about learning the fundamentals of computer science. Good luck on your coding journey and connect with us on social media to learn more about Code Like a Girl. Thank you to everybody who makes Code Like a Girl possible. Please visit our website to see more about what we do. And if you've got any questions or tips for learning how to code, please leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching, keep coding, and we'll see you next time. Bye!